It's the fact that at the time I went to my resident director, I went to the producer, I went to the stage manager, and I wasn't heard. And now here I am 3.5 years later and I'm still not being heard. And so, you know, I don't want to be sitting here, but I did feel it was my only option.
Okay.
You happy with that, Director?
Yeah, I think that's good. Now, Craig, it's the 8th of January, 2026. 8 years, the 8-year anniversary of the hardest time of your life. Just around this time of year, especially, I suppose, the way things could have gone, you would have been in the final throes of rehearsing for the play Cluedo right now.
Right now, as we speak.
How does that sit with you?
I have had to accept what's played out, but that doesn't make it right, and that doesn't mean I'm happy about it. I have to be at peace with what happened, otherwise. One of the things, the producer John Frost, I've known John Frost since the 1990s, that's the previous century. Mm-hmm. And I've done a number of shows with Mr. Frost. Do you know, when we first met, I made a pledge to him, and I'm smiling while I say it. I can remember it like it was yesterday, and he laughed, and I said, whenever I'm in your employ, I will never miss a show. I held a record in London, but the fact is that I held a record for the number of performances in London without ever missing a performance. I was very proud of it, because for me it's always been about the audience parting with their hard-earned dollars to come and see it. With him, never missed a show. Second, never missed a show, and on and on and on. The Greases, the arena shows, Chicago, Rocky Horror, until 2018 when I had to step down. My last performance being January the 7th, 2018. But in relation to Cluedo, Vanessa and I had conversations with John, and I actually said to him, I said, you know, there's a small squad, to use a military term, because they weaponised the situation and they planned their attack using social media. I said, there's a small group of people who will kick up a stink that you're going to put me in this show. And he said, and I quote, "Fuck 'em. You're an innocent man. Why shouldn't you be on the stage, particularly when Australian audiences want to see you?" I said, well, I'm just letting you know. You know, I hope you'll have my back on this. Of course I'll have your back, lovey. Of course I will. The director came and met with Vanessa and I months before the announcement was made. They started the casting process. Mr. Frost even called Vanessa and said, hey, listen, we're thinking of these people. Any names waving any red flags for you? Certainly the people who were eventually announced in the press, along with me. And he said, and I said, you know, this could get hot for them, you know, knowing the nastiness, the schadenfreude. And he said, no, they're on board. They're looking forward to doing this with you. They can't wait. The director, we had a lovely day with him up at the house, and he was well on board, and we had a good chat. So you're right. I should be in the final stages of rehearsal now.
But do you feel, just with that, I feel like, you know, if you just stayed in that cast, what was it? I'll question this. It was definitely your decision to pull out. You weren't pressured by John Frost.
I was left with no choice.
And before you go on, to me, I just think that had it have gone on, the fact that you're coming back into the spotlight again would have been the biggest thing in Australian showbiz after what you'd been through. It would have went through the roof. Like if I was John Frost, I'd be going, no, we need to continue this hooker by crook.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? It's a little Rocky Balboa Aussie showbiz story, but no. he got in touch with Vanessa first and said, oh, there's been some backlash. You know, but remember, this is the guy who said, we'll have you back, you know, I'll have you back. There's been some backlash, whatever. We may even have to pull the show if you stay attached to it. I mean, he made it clear that I had no choice. I had no choice but to pull out. He told me that he told me over the phone that the two actors named with me were copying vile abuse on social media, being attacked. The director was being attacked. The director had just directed another show. None of his cast would speak to him. Think about that. These are people who know not a fucking thing, pardon my language, about what played out in that criminal court. But they've decided I'm the Ivan Milat of Australian show business. I was left with no choice. And I said to John, I cannot have these people, this lovely director who I got on famously with, I cannot stand. If you're not going to stand up for them, which he didn't, not in any way, shape or form.
Well, just in a statement,
Yeah.
John Frost said, Craig McLachlan's theatrical stage return wasn't well received by some of the industry and public. The resulting impact on others involved has prompted his withdrawal from the production. I have listened to the feedback, and as a producer, whilst it was my initial casting decision, I understand the opposing sentiment, and I am sorry for any distress this decision has caused. She didn't have you back. But I just want to talk about this relationship with Frost, with you. Because again, you know, I just want to clarify, you know, you say that he didn't back you as much as what he should have, but then lures you back into Cluedo, and it's almost like he stuffs you again. Like it. After that, what made you come back to trust him for the Cluedo? If that makes sense. Has he got one of those personalities that draws you back in?
He and I always had such a great relationship, genuinely great relationship. We could laugh together. I was lucky enough to be his leading man in probably, if we crunch the numbers, his biggest financial success, which was a thing called Grease the Arena Spectacular in 1998. We had a great relationship. So when the Cluedo thing came up and on the phone, John was so convincing that it's time. He said, it's time. You know, it's time. Why shouldn't you be on the stage? I believed him. We had a meeting with some of the key production personnel in his office that he was supposed to attend. He never attended. They tried to call him, he didn't answer the phone. Now, I know that sort of thing happens in life, but on that day I went, something's not right here. Follow-up chats that we would do a group call, he wasn't on. This is before it was announced. And I'm saying to Vanessa, I smell a rat. I've gone through so much. I've learnt so much about how the law operates, what a game it is, not so much criminal matters because it's all about evidence and eyewitness accounts and so on. But in general terms, so my mind is a little more conspiratorial than it was once upon a time. When I read his statement, which was just appalling in relation to Cluedo and me stepping down, but to answer your question, I trusted him when we spoke at length about Cluedo over the phone. But when he didn't show up to meetings and he wasn't there, so my conspiratorial mind went, he planned all this to appease those people who resist him.
I mean, just with that, I mean, do you feel that you were, it's like you were so close to being back on the bike again, you could taste it, and it was so close. The question I want to talk about is your late mum who passed. She knew you were cast for Cluedo. It would have been great for her in the knowledge that you were back in the game before she passed?
Oh, Michael, she was so excited. Not just Mum, the family, the Macs and the Scammels. Everyone was so pumped, so excited. And as I mentioned, the one thing Mum said from the kitchen, I remember it so clearly. She turned and she said, "I hope he doesn't throw you under the bus again." And I said, "No, Mum, so much time's passed. Don't even worry about that." Oh yeah, she was she was pretty pumped, you know, already thinking about the dress she was going to wear to the theatre. She was very, very excited. But as I mentioned, her fear, once the excitement subsided, and she said, "He's not going to throw you under the bus." Or she used to call him Mr. Frost. Mr. Frost isn't going to throw you under the bus again, is he? Well, we all saw how that played out.
We're going to go into the sequence of events soon, but I just want to stay on just one thing.
Yep.
Do you feel with this Cluedo exclusion and what's happened, this has really stunted your career going forward? Do you think to yourself, where's my next gig? Will you ever get back? Does it ever think, I know you keep yourself busy, you're doing stuff with Six String, with Dave Williams. It's almost like you're keeping yourself busy. It's almost like keeping your mind occupied because, again, this is a time when you would have been preparing for that Cluedo.
Absolutely. We would have been, as we record this interview right now, I would have been in the absolute throes of the latter stages of rehearsal and probably having a lot of laughs with our director and the cast. But to your point about, particularly in wake of the Cluedo thing, do I feel like, of course you feel like you'll never work again in Australia. And you start to think all sorts of things. Is there some sort of higher political thing about making sure that the full story of what's happened to me is never told? Mm. I mean, there are trusted journalists, you know plenty of them, Michael, who have said it.
Well, they're few and far between now.
They're few and far between now. But the few who are there, particularly you're aware of the speech Vanessa made about, the presumption of innocence being completely sort of eroded away here in Australia. People have seen that, reached out and said, it's time. All the stuff that wasn't reported, it's time. But Michael, you know how it works. There'll be a sub-editor or an editor above that journalist, even if the journalist has sincere intention to get the story out there. So you start thinking, who's at the top of these particular trees wanting to keep you down? You think all this stuff because you go through the nightmare, you're found not guilty, let the dust settle and let's all just get back on with it. I'm not able to here. And it's heartbreaking.
I mean, do you feel overseas is the only option from this point on? I mean, because you've got such a great body of work. You're a great actor, you're a great performer, you're a great talent. If they're not recognising you here, I'm sure you could get some gigs in the UK or America. Is that an option, in regards to going forward?
It's certainly something that I've thought about, and certainly something Vanessa and I have discussed increasingly in light of recent events, obviously. We occasionally get correspondence from producers, directors who are based overseas who might, say, listen, can we send you something? We haven't got all the funding yet, but we'd love you to take a look at it. So that sort of thing's happening. So while increasingly I'm thinking, well, I'm going to have to go overseas and see how I go, I'll always want to do something here in Australia. I'm Australian. I'm an Aussie boy. The proudest sort of 6 years of my life in terms of my professional life was spending time in regional Victoria on the Dr. Blake mysteries with a wonderful cast and crew. And I want to, Vanessa and I joke about reclaiming a date being January 8. I want to reclaim, I'm loath to use the words my position, but I want to work here. This is my home. If I've got to go overseas, I've got to go overseas. But it's important to me for myriad reasons to work here in my home country, and I should be.
Isn't it strange? Just staying with the Dr. Blake mysteries, which was such a big hit with the ABC. When it comes to these days, when everyone wants ratings, television stations want things that rate. This is something. If they picked it up, grabbed you, it would rate the house down right off the bat. This is how embedded, I suppose, the culture is in regards to against you, that you've got a surefire hit that's just sitting on the shelf that could just be, and they still don't want to use it.
It's a great point, Michael. Do you know, even after my acquittal, obviously when it all kicked off, the ABC pulled everything, and that includes, they would ask me, can you come in and do a uke song, or can you come and celebrate Play School's 50th, and can you do a funny thing for us? The closing of Rip and Lee, could you give us a uke song? Yes, of course I can. Always happy to. Everything got pulled. Catch up, whatever the catch up thing is, what do they call them, iViews or whatever views, the catch up, Blake's taken off. What's really interesting is the crew on the Dr. Blake mysteries. Hey, listen, after the first season, and the show proved to be popular and successful, crew we could have lost to commercial networks or producers who were paying more coin. They all stayed. Yeah. And you'd think as a show increases in popularity over time, your broadcaster might throw more money at it. Well, we both know that's not how it works. So we were getting less money to produce it, but the crew stayed. They stayed, and they could have gone. And they used to say, you create such a happy and fun environment, we ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And the crew largely have supported me and Vanessa and the family through this whole nightmare. They continue to.
Craig, Christy Whelan-Brown, you and Vanessa were walking through Potts Point one morning. You bump into her not long before the allegations. Sounded like she put on an Academy Award-winning performance that day.
Yeah. In retrospect, it was pretty spectacular. But of course, in the moment, that's how we always were together. Vanessa and I were heading off up the road to the gym. She was at a cafe called Zinc, run by two delightful fellas. And yeah, we had this great catch up and we were talking about what we're doing, and she was mentioning that her husband was coming up next week. We've got to get together and have a meal. She's pointing out an apartment block where she was staying, so she's right in the heart of town. And, she was asking me about Rocky, and she was saying, because I had some issues by the end of the long runs with my feet. Well, of course I did. Look at those shoes in Rocky Horror. And we used to joke about my hip and my foot, and we joked about it on this day. I can't believe you're doing it again, Oh, nothing, a shot of cortisone won't help me. It was all that. And it was wonderful. It was just a great sort of brief catch up. And we said, yeah, we'll catch up for dinner next week. We never heard back about dinner. But also, Michael, this was 2017. we just done a second series of a television show together.
Wrong girl.
Wrong girl. And next time we do a bunch of interviews, I'll have my phone handy. But funny stuff. And she's texting Vanessa saying, we are out of control together. We are having the best time. You know, we should have our own spin-off series. And at the time, I'm thinking, yeah, we probably could have a very funny spin-off series together.
Out of everything, has she been the biggest disappointment as far as... Because again, you know, you'd been through so much together in regards to working life, friendship. It was really you'd be still struggling to get your head around it now, wouldn't you?
Yes. Certainly at the time it all kicked off. You know, when you're going into a court case, once you're charged with something, and that's another question for later on, but you have to, you know, to be prepared to walk into court. I'd spray that again, Craig. I'd never been in court even for an unpaid parking ticket. So it's terrifying anyway for anyone, you know. But, you know, I'm being charged with serious offences here. So you have to, again, like studying a script or music manuscript, you've got to go over mountains of material. Witnesses said, well, we would see them laughing and joking all the time. We thought they were great mates, and so did I. But it's not until you have to go through the mountains of material and you're reading stuff that's been subpoenaed that is just awful. Yeah. Awful. Not just aimed at me. Really nasty stuff aimed at Vanessa. And do you know what it reminded me, like, even in the throes of being so broken. Look, you can't imagine what this shit is like. You cannot imagine what it's like having your entire life reefed away from you. But when you read this subpoena material, it's like people are living their life like it's a high school playground. I'm reading text messages and shit, you know, between her and her best mate, and they're going, I can't believe he didn't put an E on the end of your surname. Oh, what a prick, what predictive text for a start. But this is the level of kind of high school quadrangle nastiness. Will you inflate that, magnify that, amplify that when a person believes? I'm reading shit. I'm hearing stuff too from mutual friends who probably aren't friends of hers anymore. She would have wiped them. Saying, you know, I should have a bigger career. I'm paraphrasing, but the quote was basically, and this is a recurring thing, he told lies and fucked my reputation. I haven't worked since Rocky, and that's him. It was unbelievable. The girl who'd playfully give me a wedgie or goose me or flick me with a, you know, little cardigan or a towel, you know what kids do with a towel when they're in the nuts or whatever. The gags on and on and on scare me out of it. We'd laugh. And then, you know, 18 months or so down the track, we spent 2 years doing this. I mean, the show, I don't think, was hugely successful, but it was successful for us in that we had a ball.
Welcome to the Breakfast Bar and happy Sunday, folks. First off the bat this morning, I wanted to address some feedback we received yesterday. Just go back. You can't laugh at Slumut Puggy. Back to ones.
You shocked me.
I did, didn't I?
I wasn't ready for that.
Slumut Puggy.
You say Slumut Puggy boo and I say Slumut Puggy pack.
Will you?
I will if you do. It's Globler and Bumpkin.
Welcome. We'll be back with more Gobbler and Bumpkin straight after this.
Oh man, I couldn't get Bumpkin out.
Just reel it back a little bit. You get an email from Lorna Knowles from the ABC regarding allegations, what your world would have turned upside down that day. Oh. And to tell us how it came about in regards to, I mean, how much response time you had to give. Your head would have been spinning.
Spinning. And you would know, Michael, you'd remember after the Weinstein stuff broke and the whole #MeToo thing sort of surfaced on social media, and in next to no time exploded, you know. And then Tracy Spicer came out saying that she had a list of 60 men who she was going to bring down and all the rest of it. I had a particular actor ring me, I won't mention his name, or perhaps I will later in Vanessa's series, who knows, ring me and go, Mac, I think I'm on the list, you know, da-da-da-da-da. And I went, really? Because I'd never seen a bullying sort of side to this guy. I mean, I'm not with him 24/7 and I haven't worked with him on every job he's ever done, but I'd never seen that. And I said, really? I think you're probably worrying over nothing. He goes, well, aren't you worried? And I, hand on heart, my conscience was clear. I'm like, well, I've never been a bully.
Yeah.
I have never walked into any work environment or just in life. It's not in me to have the intent to go and make anyone feel less than.
And let's be sure, you've worked on a lot of sets, a lot of film sets, a lot of plays, a lot of stuff. You're a clean skin.
If I say, and this was a thing I had to do before going to court, which was in fairly accurate terms, but you can't be specific without, you know, emailing people, and some production companies aren't around anymore, whatever. But and it shows my age, Michael, as well. But I've worked with thousands of people, thousands of women over the course of 40 years on both sides of the equator. I'm not just talking about performers. You know, I'm talking about production, crew, publicity departments, receptionists, not just in television studios, radio studios, recording studios, musicians, dancers. It goes on and on and on. And it's literally thousands of people. And Vanessa would get stopped on the street during the 6 years we were doing Dr. Blake. There's this girl, I think her name is who Vanessa saw only recently, who stopped Vanessa on the street and said, oh, Vanessa, I hear from the crew I've been working with that Craig has created the most wonderful work environment, you know, jokingly, if a job comes up, and same with crew. You know, like, interestingly enough, you know, she's one of the ones that would jettison that reality to stand with. That's the other thing, Michael. Is it a thing where for some, because, you know, I was admitted into a mental health facility, not just because of what I faced, such a public execution, but all of these people I'd given my time and energy and love to.
Just with Knowles' email, you get it, you read it, you've got close of business the next day to respond. Pretty small time to do that when you don't know the whens, the wheres, the hows or whys. And that's, I suppose, what the media does, that they do this, sort of push you in a corner. And you also know that you've got two media organisations, ABC and Fairfax, combining. It's almost like this insurmountable force that's coming at you. You better answer it quick, smart, or you're in trouble, and push you in that corner. How are you feeling?
Oh, I was going to say sick, but it's way beyond sick. You're nauseous, your head spinning. Bearing in mind with all of the Tracy Spicer carry-on, the list of 60, the Weinstein thing, the Jeffrey Rush thing, da-da-da-da-da. Again, my conscience was clear. I didn't ring a lawyer in advance of anything and go, hey, you've heard of all this stuff that's going on in the media. What do you think I should do? And they would have said, well, have you been... Well, no, but I'm just... Nothing. I observed what was going on, but I didn't think in a million years that I'd be dragged into it. So when that email arrived, to this day, I don't know how she got my email address. I have some theories, but anyway, I just couldn't believe it. And Vanessa and I were in different parts of the country.
When you I was just on that, when you got that email, did you realise, when she said that there was some women that put some accusations together, did you have any idea that one of them would have been Christy Whelan-Brown?
No, I didn't know who any of them could be or would be. And when
Any thoughts of anyone?
No, because when I'm thinking about that particular collection of people who made up that cast, with the exception of possibly only one or two, they were also outlandish, also wickedly naughty. And the other thing is, these broad allegations, I'm reading them and I'm going, well, I need specifics here. Who are these people? They never told me. So at least I could think of, well, all my interactions with Jim Bloggs, could there have ever been anything that I said that might have upset Jim? But if I had said something that upset Jim Bloggs, Jim would have said something. I know that. Yeah. If I'd ever done anything to Whelan-Brown, for example, I'm telling you now, I mean, she formally reported a kid in the cast because he jumped out of the dark and spooked her, and she almost rolled her ankle. She made a formal complaint about that kid. I can tell you this, if I'd done anything sinister to her, she would not have held back, and particularly because of the friendship. So, Michael, I had no idea of the specifics. I had no idea who these people were. I didn't have a lawyer. What the fuck? And I've got till the close of business tomorrow, and they want to fly over and do an interview in that time as well.
But you also, you're still performing while this is going on. How do you get up and perform with this in the back of your mind?
Also, the show had just opened, so I'm doing publicity during the days. And you know what it's like, FM radio and stuff. It's all, hey, ho, ho, hey, we got Craig in today. Yeah. It's our Craigie McLachlan here. Chunka, chunka, chunk, chicka, chunk, chunk. Oh, we remember that one. Da, 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 da. Tell us about Rocky, you're back. How do I? And so you do what you got to do. You flick the professionalism switch and you do your thing. In the back of my mind. So just moving forward, only a couple of days, we're still not getting details. And Adelaide was awash. We were in Adelaide, the show had just opened. It was just awash with paps, photographers. I had two blokes working on the tram line on, what is it called, North Terrace or something, who waved. I thought they were just waving at me. And I waved back and he stopped and he runs over. And he goes, Craig, just wanted you to know, mate, we've had people coming up, camera guys and stuff, asking if we know where you're staying, which hotel. Something's off, mate. We just wanted to let you know. So for the last couple of days before I stepped down from Rocky Horror, I was being ferried to the theatre under a secret construction tunnel. You know, such was the... Now, I don't know how anyone... People have said to me, why didn't you just come out on the morning of the stories and say, this is all bullshit? I've seen how they're reporting it. I've seen how they're selling it. I've seen the faces of who they are. And you're saying, why didn't you just walk out and say this is bullshit? You are in no emotional state. You're in no physical state. You can't string a sentence together. And who would have listened on that morning anyway? Who would have listened? The cat sitting on the couch on the various breakfast shows who had it on high rotation. Friends of mine who I'd done their breakfast shows with countless times over the decades. I have to listen to them going, disgraced actor Craig McLachlan. These are two breakfast hosts who I used to co-host the show when one of them was sick, and on and on and on. And you expect that you can walk out gathered, your thoughts centered, your emotions in check, and go, well, I've just discovered who these people are. I'd like to read the last text message from one of them. Can't wait to see you, da-da-da-da-da, love you. Even if I did, can you imagine being howled down in the wake of Weinstein mania? It would never have happened. And you're unable to. And I've been around long enough. I'd sued 3 tabloid newspapers in the 80s and settled out of court, but it was ugly. This is a whole new ugly because social media exists now. And it's not just national news, it's international news. And I knew that if I'd done or said anything that day, I wouldn't have been listened to. And so many sportsmen, celebrities, or whatever, from time to time in their careers they might be. This was not that. This was an execution. This was a public crucifixion with people I thought were friends queuing up to buy a ticket for the Crucifixion Express. How do you fucking gather yourself in the face of that? I'd ask anybody to think back to that day. It nearly killed my family, my mum, Nessa. So, and that woman Knowles, I don't know where she is now, but for me to hear in material I had to listen to without ever speaking to me, and I'm only singling her out for this one thing, to say, let's go nuclear, says it all, doesn't it? Without ever uttering a word to me, without looking me in the eye, without letting me show her the text messages from my so-called castmates. Fuck it, let's go nuclear. And by Christ, they did.
In the first episode, Vanessa Scammell takes listeners through the events leading up to Craig McLachlan's criminal case. Using clear timelines and careful analysis, she examines how difficult it is to challenge an established narrative once page 1 guilt has taken hold. The episode explores how the erosion of one of the most fundamental principles of justice, the presumption of innocence, can devastate lives and create dangerous new social norms.